Yo, picture this. The ground beneath your feet starts shaking, not just once, but over and over, like the Earth's throwing a tantrum. That's been happening lately with earthquake swarms, clusters of quakes hitting the same spot in a short time, with no single massive earthquake stealing the show. These swarms are popping up everywhere, and it's got people buzzing. From Yellowstone National Park to the icy slopes of Iceland, the planet's been acting like it's got something to say. But is this just Earth doing its thing, or are we seeing the early warning signs of supervolcanoes getting ready to blow? Let's start with the facts. Earthquake swarms are sequences of seismic events in one area, happening over days, weeks, or even months. Unlike a big quake followed by aftershocks, swarms don't have a clear main event. They're like a swarm of bees, lots of little stings, no single massive attack. And lately, these swarms are making headlines. Since January 2025, over 7,700 quakes have rocked the area between Amorgos and Santorini in Greece, with around 100 hitting magnitude 4 or higher. The biggest was a 5.2 on February 5. In Iceland, the Reykjanes Peninsula saw 20,000 tremors by November 2023, with some over magnitude 5, forcing evacuations in Grindavik. And don't sleep on Yellowstone. Hundreds of quakes, including a magnitude 2.9, hit in early 2025. So, what's the deal? Are these swarms just random, or is something bigger brewing? Scientists say swarms are common in volcanic areas, but the sheer number and spread of these events have folks wondering if supervolcanoes, those massive volcanoes capable of global devastation, are waking up. Let's dig deeper and find out. Okay, let's break it down like we're explaining it to your grandma. Earthquake swarms happen when a bunch of quakes hit a small area in a short time. Unlike a classic earthquake where one big jolt, the main shock, is followed by smaller aftershocks, swarms are like a party where everyone's equal. No single quake dominates. They can last from hours to years, and they're often linked to volcanic or geothermal activity. Why do they happen? Scientists think swarms are often triggered by fluids, like water, gas, or even magma, moving through cracks in the Earth's crust. These fluids can lubricate faults, making them slip and causing quakes. Sometimes it's tectonic plates shifting, but in places like Yellowstone or Iceland, it's often tied to volcanic systems. For example, Yellowstone's had swarms for decades, with over 3,000 quakes in 1985 alone and 1,620 in 2010. These are usually caused by slips on existing faults, not magma moving, but they still get people's attention because, supervolcano. Swarms aren't always a red flag, though. They account for over half of Yellowstone's seismic activity, and most are too small to feel. But when you see them happening globally all at once, it's hard not to wonder, is the Earth trying to tell us something? All right, let's talk about the big, scary word, supervolcanoes. These are volcanoes that can erupt with enough force to change the planet's climate, spewing ash and gas that could mess with weather for years. Yellowstone, Toba in Indonesia, and Taupo in New Zealand are some of the big names. The question is, are these quake swarms a sign that supervolcanoes are waking up? Yellowstone's a great place to start. It's one of the world's most famous supervolcanoes, sitting on a massive magma pocket that last erupted 630,000 years ago. That eruption was so huge it carved out a giant crater that's now most of the national park. In early 2025, Yellowstone saw a swarm of over 200 quakes, but scientists were like, chill, this is normal. They say these swarms are just the park's usual seismic activity, not a sign of an imminent eruption. The largest quake was only a 2.9, and Yellowstone's been dormant for 70,000 years. But here's where it gets spicy. Swarms are often linked to volcanic areas because fluids like magma or hot water can trigger them. In Iceland, the 2023 Reykjanes swarm was tied to a magmatic intrusion, basically magma sneaking around underground. That led to an evacuation, so it's not just small potatoes. And in Greece, The Amorgo Santorini swarm is raising eyebrows because it's near the Santorini volcano, which had a catastrophic eruption 3,600 years ago. So, are supervolcanoes activating? Scientists say no, at least not yet. Swarms are common in volcanic regions, and while they can signal magma movement, they don't always mean an eruption's coming. Yellowstone swarms, for example, are usually caused by fault slips, not magma. But when you see swarms popping up globally, it's natural to wonder if something's up. Let's look at some recent events that have people talking. The past few years have been a seismic roller coaster. Here's a rundown of some crazy quake swarms that have scientists and the internet buzzing. Greece, Amorgo Santorini 2025. Over 7,700 quakes since January, with a 5.2 as the biggest. This is near Santorini, a volcano with a history of massive eruptions. People are watching this one closely. Iceland, Reykjanes Peninsula 2023. A swarm of 20,000 tremors, some over magnitude 5, led to evacuations in Grindavik. Scientists linked it to magma moving underground, which is a big deal in a volcanic hotspot like Iceland. Yellowstone, 2025. Hundreds of quakes, maxing out at 2.9, hit in February. Scientists say it's business as usual, but the internet's losing it over the supervolcano word. Southern California, Cahuila, 2016-2019. Over 22,000 tiny quakes, with the biggest at 4.4. Scientists used machine learning to figure out it was caused by fluids moving through a fault zone. This shows how complex swarms can be. Idaho, Soda Springs 2017. 5 quakes between 4.6 and 5.3 hit in 9 days. Experts warned a bigger one could follow, remembering a 6.9 quake in 1983. These events are wild, right? And they're happening all over the place, which makes people wonder if the Earth's getting antsy. But here's the kicker. Swarms don't always lead to big quakes or eruptions. They're often just the Earth stretching its legs. Still, the global uptick in seismic activity has some folks worried about what's next. Okay, let's address the big question. Is this a sign of the end times or just Earth being Earth? Scientists are pretty chill about it. They say earthquake swarms are a normal part of living on a geologically active planet. The Earth's tectonic plates are always moving, driven by heat from deep inside. That movement causes quakes, and sometimes they cluster into swarms. But here's where it gets interesting. Some researchers think human activity, like climate change, could be making things shakier. Rising sea levels and stronger storms can increase pressure on faults, potentially triggering more quakes. A 2025 study from the GFZ German Research Center found that sea level rise of just a few decimeters can set off earthquakes, especially in coastal areas where 40% of the world's population lives. Places like San Francisco, Tokyo, and Istanbul could be at higher risk. On the flip side, the data doesn't show a dramatic increase in global seismic activity. The USGS says we expect about 16 major quakes, magnitude 7 or higher per year, and we've only gone above that a dozen times in the last 40 to 50 years. The increase in reported quakes might be because we're better at detecting them, thanks to more seismometers and global communication. So, are supervolcanoes about to erupt everywhere? Probably not. Most swarms are harmless, and even in volcanic areas, they don't usually lead to eruptions. Yellowstone's been quiet for 70,000 years, and other supervolcanoes like Toba and Taupo show no signs of waking up, but the global pattern is enough to keep scientists on their toes. Here, as the deal, we can predict exactly when or where a big quake or eruption will hit, but we can be ready. Scientists are using crazy tech like machine learning to study swarms and figure out what's going on underground. In California, researchers mapped a fault zone using algorithms, revealing how fluids trigger quakes. This could lead to better early warning systems. For us regular folks, preparedness is key. If you live in a quake-prone area, make sure you've got an emergency kit, a plan, and a way to stay informed. Check out USGS or local seismic agencies for real-time quake info. And if you're near a volcano, keep an eye on official updates from places like the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory. So, what's the verdict? Global quake swarms are definitely a thing, and they're making waves from Yellowstone to Iceland. Are they a sign that supervolcanoes are activating? Most scientists say no. It's just the Earth doing its normal, shaky thing. But the global uptick in swarms, combined with climate change's potential to mess with faults, means we should stay vigilant. This planet's full of surprises, and we're just along for the ride. Let's keep exploring, stay curious, and maybe throw in a few "whoa, that's wild" moments as we learn more about our awesome, unpredictable Earth. What do you think? Are these swarms just a blip, or is something bigger coming? Drop your thoughts, and let's keep the convo going.